Well, you're not going to see too many more dramatic college football games, maybe football games of any level, more dramatic than the ending of that game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And boy, was Ryan Day hot when the game was over. 17-14, basically a walk-off winner for Ohio State. We'll break it down for you next on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast postgame show.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Boy, that's as good as it gets. Welcome to the Buckeye Breakdown postgame show. It was an unbelievable game in so many senses of the word. Ohio State a winner, 17-14 in a game at Notre Dame, a game that Buckeye fans have been looking forward to for a long time, and you better believe it, the Ohio State Buckeyes themselves were awfully ticked off this week with some of the things they heard, and they put on an impressive performance late in the game. Joining us for the first time, we do these shows all the time. My name is Brendan Gulick, along with Anthony Meglin. Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated, but obviously part of the Fan Nation Network. You can follow all of our stuff over at BuckeyesNow.com, all the written content. And please subscribe to this channel. We do lots of video content. We go live at 7 a.m. every weekday morning. All right, this is our instant analysis show. The game ended. We just heard from Ryan Day, Kyle McCord, and Chip Trayanum. And I don't even know if my blood pressure's come down quite yet. That was a pretty unbelievable finish.
It was out of control. You said it best. Any football game that I've ever seen, I don't know if you've ever seen, it could be pro, pee-wee, college, high school, that finish was out of control. A couple big third downs, 3rd and 19 in the red area right after a sack. You know, that throw that Kyle made to Emeka was, I mean, just gutsy. Just a gutsy throw. And Emeka Egbuka, I mean, have yourself a night, kid. Like, just absolutely was always there, always were in the right place at the right time. Kate Stover, awesome. And they, Notre Dame tried to take Marvin Harrison away. And guess what? When you take that away, other guys step up. And I think Ohio State did a great job. That was out of control good for Ohio State.
It wasn't necessarily where I thought I would start this show. But if I would have told you before the game that Marvin Harrison would have 3 catches for 32 yards on 7 targets, would you have expected Ohio State to win?
I'd say 31-7 Notre Dame winners in that. I mean, how we talked all week, like we were thinking, at least I was thinking, Marvin Harrison's going to make a huge impact in this game, and why? And I think he did. He did. He had 2 guys on him at all times, and that led to some other areas being wide open. It was just amazing to see different guys step up for Ohio State. I think I'm very impressed walking away from that win for Ohio State.
The attention that he drew so often had Emeka Egbuka in one-on-ones. And the reality is, when you play a team like this, you just can't leave either of those 2 guys in single coverage, because unless you get to the quarterback in less than 2 seconds, somebody's going to get the ball out. Now, I mean, look, for a lot of reasons, this wasn't like a clinic of a game. Ohio State struggled at times. But to circle back to the point that I think is most important, Ryan Day made it damn clear on NBC, in front of a bunch of cameras afterward. Ryan Day has a big problem with Lou Holtz, does not appreciate what he said about the lack of toughness for his team, and made it awfully apparent that the Ohio State Buckeyes took that very personally all week long, and it was what fueled them to win that game.
They heard it. You said you had made mention of it earlier in the day. It was out there. I mean, I was watching ESPN too. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of weird. And frankly, Brendan, I mean, we've been on this show and I've questioned a little bit of the toughness, and you can see some things, but you watch a game like that enough, and they answered the bell when Notre Dame kind of punched them in the mouth a little bit. Notre Dame's a formidable defense, but they're mentally tough. Like, some of the stuff you saw on that last drive was, I mean, incredible. You got 3rd and 9, you got 4th and 8, you got 3rd and 19. That stadium was rocking. I don't know what came through on TV, but I mean, that place was a hostile environment, and it was, there was very little red in the stadium. And for Kyle McCord to play the way that he did was very impressive. This team's mental toughness, I think, matches that physical toughness. When you have those 2 things rolling at the same time, you're tough to beat. You're tough to knock out.
just some final numbers that I think are ones people will pay attention to. Kyle McCord finished the game 21 of 37, 240 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown pass, obviously, and also did not turn the football over. I feel like Kyle's value today wasn't necessarily what I would expect to see on the stat sheet. I don't really know how to explain it. And Ryan Day even kind of laughed about it in the post-game press conference. For whatever reason, Kyle couldn't really get it going on first and second down. I'd love to see what his third down numbers were, because it was like when his back was against the wall, he just said, okay, I'm fine. I'll thread one for 18 yards to a Mecca right down the center.
I also think, too, from what I took away and from watching it, firsthand, I feel like Ohio State had a really good feel on what Notre Dame was going to do defensively on third down. So I think, from a play call perspective, I think that there's some things we're going to look at on Monday and be like, that was a weird call. I think back to that 4th and 1 where we ran a jet sweep. Like that, something like some of that stuff I didn't love. But on third down, it felt like they had a really, really good plan, and they knew what Notre Dame was going to be in, and they executed to perfection. So they'll take a look at it, and I'm excited to see it, because sometimes in first and second down, it's hard to really guess, and you're playing that chess match. It's hard to really determine what you're going to get. But I think on third down, you kind of have a really good idea, and I think the coaches put them in a really good position. They had them in the right area at the right time. Things were good.
Apologize for some of the background noise. Obviously, we're right outside the stadium here as everybody's kind of cleaning up for the night. Look, I think about some critical moments in the game that really stand out to me. I loved the decision to go for it on 4th down, 4th and 1. Basically early in the game, 4th and 1, it was you're right up on the goal. I love the decision to go for it. I thought it was very telling, whether Ryan Day would admit it or not. I thought it was very telling that he chose to throw that instead of run it. And I liked that he decided at the end of the game, when he was given a second crack at what needed to happen to win the game, that he chose to run the ball in that situation. The offensive line, I'm not going to question their toughness, right? Look what they did. There were some problems for sure. Josh Fryer didn't play great. I thought Josh Simmons played okay. The offensive line was fine. They weren't the problem, but they were not able to move Notre Dame consistently.
And I think Notre Dame played a really good defensive game. I think that you saw that. The feeling I got early on was a super clunky start to the game, right? Like Notre Dame went for it on 4th a couple times, didn't get it, missed that field goal. Thought they left some stuff out there, and then Ohio State comes down, goes on that big long drive, and then, like you said, they try to pass the ball in the end zone. I thought he had I think it was Cade he was throwing to, had him. They just got a hand on the ball. So I agree. Love the decision and forcing Notre Dame into a long field, but felt it was kind of a clunky start for both sides. But I think the guys settled into it, and you just come out of here with the win, man. You come to South Bend coming out of here with more points than the other team. They don't ask how. They just make sure that there's more points on the board.
Obviously, Travion Henderson's touchdown run was the most explosive play of the game. A 61-yard scamper, and at that point, he actually ran for more yards on that play than Ohio State had rushing yards as a team in the first half. Yeah. I was, as I reflect on, again, critical moments in the game, there was a hush in the stadium when Marvin goes down and has his ankle rolled up on that play. Can't seemingly put any weight on that as he's coming off the field. He was in the medical tent for like 7 minutes. Got taped up. Ryan Day said post-game it was a sprained ankle. The reality is him coming back on the field, even if he wasn't totally himself, for me, that was huge, because it didn't remove his threat. And that helped, I think, execute that game-winning drive.
I couldn't agree more. And think back to that sequence, too, before Travion's 60-yard run. I mean, right before then, Notre Dame was backed up, going a long drive. It's 4th and 1, and they run the quarterback sneak, and Sam Hartman, instead of going up the middle, kind of takes on the outside. Great play on the outside. I couldn't see who it was. I'm sure we'll take a look at it and see it. But great play on the outside, and then boom, very next play, 61 yards to the house. And then thankfully Marvin was okay. That didn't look good in the stadium for sure, but think about that sequence. Like that's a huge swing in momentum for Ohio State, and that's kind of when the game starts to turn. There's a handful of plays, Brennan, and coaches will talk about this often. There's maybe 5 plays in the game that will determine the outcome. You never know when they're coming, so you always got to be prepared. Coaches always harp on it. You never know. And you look back at a sequence like that. Defensively, you just make the stop on 4th down, and then boom, right away on offense you capitalize. That's complementary football, and that's 2 massive plays that determine the outcome of the football game.
In a game you knew it was going to be close.
Yep.
One of the things that you think about going in is, okay, it's a battlefield position. You got to execute those situational things. Without telling you, because I have it in front of me, what did it feel like to you in terms of where Notre Dame starting average field position?
I was talking to my brother about this. It felt like every time Notre Dame got the football, it was within the 10-yard line.
Average starting field position was their own 19-yard line.
Yep, it felt that way.
And there is a, and Ohio State, it's not like they were substantially better, but on average, they started at their own 29. So they had a little bit shorter field to work with, and I give the defense a lot of credit for that. I also give both defenses credit in the sense that in the first half, obviously Notre Dame's opening drive, 14 plays, 71 yards, took 8-12, no points. The Buckeyes, a couple possessions later, 13 plays, 70 yards, 7-11 off the clock, didn't score on 4th and goal from the 1. I mean, that's a quarter. It's 15 minutes plus of drives that did not result in points. That's huge.
Yeah, it's massive. And that's what, like I just said, it felt like a clunky game in the first half. Like neither team could get it going. I honestly thought Marcus Freeman didn't have his best game ever, and there's going to be some questions. Yeah, it just was like at some point, last 2 plays, there's 10 guys on the field for Notre Dame. Right? Like little things like that, like good, well-coached teams don't do that. And I thought what was masterful, and one thing that was questionable at the start was when Coach Day didn't take the timeout after the screen, Notre Dame ran it. He didn't take the timeout, held on to it, saved him the game.
Good thing. It's a good thing. Although in the moment, I'm with you.
In the moment, we were like,
that's a lot of clock.
We were in the stands. We're like, well, you'd rather have the ball with 2:20 left. Well, if you have the ball with 2:20 left, you don't have a timeout to eliminate the 10-second runoff, which leaves you with 5 seconds with a rolling clock.
But you're also not quite as late.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So it's
a little bit of a give and take. But when you look back, they're like, well,
worked out.
It worked out in your favor, and it's like we were just up there thinking like, well, I'm not sure what the tactic is, and as long as you have those timeouts, you're going to be in it.
I don't know that I felt like the team that had the ball last was going to score because the defenses were playing so well.
Yeah.
But Ohio State controlling the clock in both the last few minutes of the second quarter and obviously the last few minutes of the fourth quarter put Notre Dame in a weird spot. Notre Dame, when they came up with the 4th down stop, and Ohio State turned it over on downs. At that time, there was 4:12 left in the game. At that point, I think a lot of Buckeye fans felt, oh my God, we just lost. It's over, right? And I give this team so much credit for standing there and saying, look, it doesn't look good, but it's not over. And let's just see if we can get the offense the ball back and give them a chance.
Yeah. It's so true. And Notre Dame really at that point is 2 first downs away. You're 20 yards away from
they got 2 first downs. Problem was they got them too quickly.
Got them too quickly, yes. It goes back to kind of what I mentioned. I think there's some clock management stuff on Notre Dame's side, which cost them the game. But on the flip side, there's some clock management stuff that Ryan Day executed to perfection to give you an opportunity with 5 seconds to go, and you have 2 plays at the 1-yard line to win the football game.
Audric Estime had a 22-yard run in the first half. At halftime, he had 5 carries for 25 yards, which means basically it all came on one run. He finished the game 14 carries for 70 yards. He looked tough, but I thought Ohio State did a really good job of not letting him blow this thing open to the point where they weren't going to be able to do anything.
No question about it. I mean, I think that we mentioned this a lot. Like this offense goes through him. We found that I think the offense just goes through the run game. I think he got in the doghouse in the second half. Don't know what was going on because he looked healthy, but they were giving a lot of guys some carries. But Ohio State just bottled it up. No big plays, and when you just eliminate big plays, that makes your team have to execute now 12-play drives, and then stuff happens, and you don't accidentally, but then you tempo into a 4th down and you don't get it, and then like stuff like that happens though. But honestly, man, like when you talk about it's all connected, right? When Notre Dame's starting inside their 19-yard line every time, and you just don't give up any big plays, you have to go 80 yards every single drive. They did it twice tonight, holding to 14 points. It's all connected. And I think when you talk complimentary football, you put on the tape of this game and you watch Ohio State. Like, hey, it didn't feel like at times the offense had it going, and maybe at times it felt like the defense maybe had been giving some stuff up. But when they played together, and that's what it looked like, you were playing really good complimentary football together, it came out as a win.
I'm just going to say it because I heard it a lot all week. Oh, Kyle McCord's only started 4 games. There's no way he's going to be able to handle a road environment like this. How about the composure he showed late in the game when he knew his best player was not 100% and he only had 1 timeout, and they had to score a touchdown. That was incredibly gutsy by McCord to step into a situation where the only way he believes he can do that is if it's in his way.
It's unbelievable. I think there's a lot of good. My favorite part about his day today, beyond that, was no sacks.
Yeah.
There's no sacks taken. And honestly, a lot of
the toughness he showed on what ended up being a grounding call, but he didn't get sacked.
Fine, didn't get sacked. And okay, if Marvin, instead of going left, turns right, it's an incomplete pass. You know, it was just a situation where he went left and he was throwing it out of bounds and just getting it away. But it's little things like that where that changes the game. And go on the flip side of things. Okay, Notre Dame is trying to run the clock out. Sam Hartman goes the wrong way on handing the ball off. They lose 5 yards. Then they throw almost an interception on a screen. And then this whole situation happens. You know, that's composure from your quarterback that either gives you a win or gives you a loss. And Kyle McCord on the road went in and was the better quarterback today, and his team comes out with the victory.
How about Xavier Johnson?
Unbelievable.
Captain, you know, the guy isn't going to get the volume of touches that most captains will because of who's in front of him on the roster.
Yeah.
He got one catch.
Yeah.
And it was game-changing.
And so smart, too. It was the clip, the back view of it. I'm sure you all saw it on TV where they had two blitzers come off the edge. Guy dropped too far out of his zone, and his head was like on a string. The guy drove past him, and it was on a string right back to the quarterback, and the ball hit him right in the chest and just open field. Unbelievable awareness by him, and like you said, you know, you're a captain for a reason. You're in the right spot at the right time, and you make the right play. And
I'll tell you who I've said a few times, he's probably my favorite Buckeye. I get the impression a lot of people feel this way. Number 8's pretty special.
Stud.
Cade Stover is your quintessential Ohio State Buckeye, and the guy plays with a level of toughness that's pretty hard to match. And boy, did he find himself in some big moments.
The toughness and heart. Like, there's one thing about him is like you can see it. I was 100 rows up tonight. You could feel it. Like, this kid cares. He is Ohio State football. It's coursing through his veins. Like, you know, some of the catches he made were just unbelievable use of his hand. Like, just no one else is making that catch except for him. And when we were talking about it, there's times he was the best player on the field. Best player on that offensive side of football with guys. You got 10 first-round picks on that side, and he was the best one. You know, so it was a really impressive performance by him. And when you have leaders like that, and they're bringing your team along, sure, first half didn't look great. Don't matter. Cade's going to get this team going. You know, it's guys like that are part of the winning formula.
So our shows post-game like this are obviously a little bit more emotional. They're not film-based. We're not watching replays. That's for the next 48 hours. So just pure gut reaction. Defensive line play today. I was personally a little irritated. I didn't see Mike Hall very much, especially the opening drive of the game. I understand that maybe Ty Hamilton's got a slightly bigger body.
Yeah.
And if Notre Dame was going to run, maybe they wanted a little more girth. But I just don't like taking Mike Hall off the field, man. He's so freaking good. And, you know, JT Tuimoloau almost had another Penn State-like interception at the end of the game there. Thought Jack Sawyer played fine. But ultimately, as well as Notre Dame's offensive line has played, I thought the Buckeye defensive line did a good job.
And they made their impact in the run game. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff in the run game. Whoever was playing defensive tackle, didn't matter who it may have been, they were causing problems in the run game.
Tyreek Williams, 91.
Awesome. Yeah, and they were flying. Mike Hall, there's some of the run stops he had were awesome. And again, there was no sacks in the game on either side. So again, we're talking about that portion of the D-line play, like need to still get to the quarterback. Thought there was a fair amount of pressures, but also their run stops are going to be some impressive stuff from what I can remember.
You know who I can't wait to see on film? Sonny Styles. I mean, you want to talk about the fourth down stop he had early in the game. He and Lathan Ransom blowing up the play just off left tackle on fourth and short. Cody Simon got the start because Ohio State came out in a 3-linebacker package, knowing that Notre Dame was bringing out a package they looked like they wanted to run the ball in. I just thought Jim Knowles' defense today showed not just Ohio State fans, showed college football fans that the reason why this season can go differently is because they are not going to be susceptible to giving up huge home run plays with any regularity. They'll give up stuff if they keep it in front of them. And in the run, man, you got to earn it.
Yeah, and a guy who you didn't even hear about tonight is Denzel Burke because the ball didn't go his way. You shut down half the field with number 10 out there because the guy's locked out. He's a lockdown corner. I thought the corners played really well. You know, I didn't think that they were Notre Dame's not the best test they're going to have all year. I think there's going to be some better tests out there, but still, you do your job. And it's this type of a win in this type of a game where it's more low scoring, a little bit more physical, more in the trenches, that prepares you for that team up north, right? That's the kind of feel you had tonight, where it was like, hey, this isn't a shootout, and this is a really tough and hard-fought football game that I think is going to pay dividends.
So Ohio State ran 65 plays. 17 of them were third downs. They were on third down what felt like all the time. Now, they converted 10 of 17. But, to me, that's part of what I enjoyed about this game, was watching the extension of drives, watching the tense moments, but a calming presence. There was one penalty all night that irritated me, and I know it irritated a lot of you. A conversion on a third down where Emeka Egbuka makes a big catch, great throw from McCord, and Josh Fryer, had a defender that was already on the ground, and then he dives on top of him and drives him back in and wipes out that third down play, and then ultimately the Buckeyes are forced to punt. That's unacceptable, and I'm sure that as a coaching staff, they feel that same way. But for the most part, in an environment where they had to keep their heads about them while playing with anger and fire, they did.
It did. It was. That's a game you circle, and it's like, hey, this is kind of where things started to change a little bit, because just all fronts, I thought they played so good, tough, physical. I have to eat my words a little bit, because I think they certainly answered the bell. They weren't listening to me per se; they were probably listening to Lou Holtz. But yeah, it was as impressive as a win as you could have, and just the way it went down. I think we may have hinted at this on our prediction show. I called a late game drive. I don't know if I'm Nostradamus or whatnot, but
so this is such an omen. I'm taking some medicine this morning, and the medicine ricocheted off the side of my mouth and into the sink with the faucet on, and it disintegrated in the sink. And I literally thought to myself, oh my God, this is an omen. The game is going to end tonight on a field goal that doinks off the upright. And it literally came down to the last play. Thankfully, it was a little better than what I thought.
No, it was. This is as good of a win as you could have on the road. Tough environment, national spotlight on you, under the lights. The environment was incredible, and it was really good. And to see Ohio State respond the way that they did is awesome.
All right, last question before we wrap up our show tonight. It's total gut reaction. So, on a day that had some mega games around the country, I think we felt coming in that because this was the only top 10 game, that the winner of this game was going to register a victory over such a high-quality team that they were going to make a good jump in the standings from either 6 or 9 to where? Where would you slot Ohio State just off the top of your head after a night like tonight?
I think they have to flip-flop with Florida State. I think they're definitely going to be in the top 4, right? I don't know exactly what all happened.
So Michigan beat Rutgers 31-7.
And it wasn't
losing 7-0. They put 31 on them.
Yep.
Michigan looked good.
Yeah, they won't move. Georgia's not going to move. Well, Georgia was kind of in a tight one last I saw, not super tight. So I don't think they'll move. I think this puts Ohio State back into the top 4 for sure. And honestly, midway through the game, it got to the point where I was like, okay, the loser of this game is still alive.
I absolutely felt like we were watching a playoff game.
Yes.
If I'm Notre Dame, this sucks. It's devastating that you're that close and don't get over the hump. But it should be that much more reassuring that you can run the table the rest of the way. And Ohio State last year got a little lucky at the end of the year.
Yep.
There were 3 teams that were basically locked in the playoff, and the Buckeyes were looking like they'd be on the outside looking in until TCU helped out and helped Ohio State leap into that 4th spot.
Yep.
I think Notre Dame could still look good enough, and they've got good enough teams on their schedule that they can make it happen.
That's the thing. And it was, we were talking about it during the middle of the game. Okay, if it goes one of 2 ways, okay, Ohio State would still be alive if they don't pull this off. They got Penn State and Michigan still on the schedule, Notre Dame the same. So I think it was a really good game. I put Ohio State, they're going to be back in the top 4. They'll jump a couple spots, maybe bump Florida State down a little bit after their late night or late game heroics earlier this afternoon.
I didn't see the final, but Penn State punched Iowa in the mouth.
Yeah, they're putting it on.
I'm telling you, man, the Nittany Lions are pretty darn good. This is the first of what I think are going to be 3 really good games. And the mood is good tonight because the Ohio State Buckeyes, in a pretty awesome fashion, a walk-off win. I know they ultimately had to squib kick and then
kick it out of
hope
bounds.
that hope that nothing goofy was going to happen. They essentially had a walk-off win tonight on the road in South Bend, and in the home and home with the Irish, beat them both times. Pretty impressive. So the Buckeyes go into their bye answering an awful lot of questions. This is Kyle McCord's team, and everybody in America knows it now. And I'm telling you, there were a lot of people picking Notre Dame leading up to this game because they didn't believe in Kyle. And I think everybody's finding out that Ohio State had more depth at quarterback last year than people gave them credit for. It wasn't just a C.J. Stroud kind of run. We got so much to talk about in the few days ahead of us here. Obviously, we'll catch our breath a little tonight. Probably do our post-game show as we travel home tomorrow. We won't do our show in the morning like normal. I would anticipate we'll probably do an evening show tomorrow. And then we'll be right back at it on Monday. Monday through Friday, we'll be live at 7 a.m. each day. Looking forward to a weekend next weekend where we can breathe easy and not have to worry about what's going to happen down at the Woody.
Not have to worry about a 3rd and 19.
I mean, think about if you lose this game and you go into the bye and it just sits with you.
It's the worst.
Oh.
You go into a bye off a loss, especially one where there's a lot. There would have been a lot of things where you're like missed opportunity here, here, and here. But going in with the win, you're on top. You're flying high for sure. Can't
wait to go back and watch a tape. We will have a really thorough film review session with you, especially considering that there is no game upcoming here this weekend. So lots to do, lots to talk about after a pretty memorable day in South Bend, Indiana. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel so that we can continue to do content like this. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Know that you can find the show after the fact, audio only, wherever you like to find your favorite podcast, but certainly it's archived on our YouTube channel. Just subscribe to the channel so that you can support the show that way. And then BuckeyesNow.com is your home for all the latest news and info on the team. All right, for Anthony Meglin, I'm Brendan Gulick. 17-14, a final tonight. Chip Trayanum runs it in. A Buckeye, finally, Chip Trayanum transfers from Arizona State back to Columbus and has his moment in front of touchdown Jesus. He puts it in, and the Buckeyes win by 3. See you soon.